Well, I'm excited about today's video because I'm planning to introduce you to a product, maybe some of you already know about it, but a product that I would consider to be my #1 go-to product for at least 2 different weeds that are commonly found in the yard. I'm going to introduce you to the product. I'm going to show you the weeds. We're going to spray the weeds, and I want to check back because, you know, I can say that on video, but it would be better if we could actually show you the weeds, full, green, healthy, spray them with this particular product, and then go back and check and see how well it works. This is my yard this morning. I got a robot lawnmower, been making tracks through there, looking pretty decent. Summertime Bermuda grass, and that's what we're gonna be testing this product out on today. So here's our product. This is called Dismiss NXT, and you'll see here the active ingredients here: sulfentrazone and carfentrazone. Now there's several different products out there that have Dismiss in the name. They're just what we just consider regular old Dismiss. But what I want you to understand is the Dismiss products have the active ingredient sulfentrazone in there. So Dismiss is sulfentrazone. Dismiss NXT is sulfentrazone and carfentrazone. Then you got stuff like Dismiss South. You got other products that have Dismiss in it or sulfentrazone, like Blindside, like Solitaire. They all have sulfentrazone in the product. So this is regular Dismiss. What you'll see is sulfentrazone at 39.6%. You may not be able to read it on the camera. The Dismiss NXT has sulfentrazone at 31.77%. So what do I like to do with the Dismiss products? Let me tell you one thing I did this year I think worked great. I took Dismiss, regular old Dismiss, at the high rate, which is 12 ounces per acre, and I sprayed it on my warm season lawns before the grass turned green. Okay, I did it like in March or so, before, well, it was still mostly dormant. And what I was trying to do was to get ahead of some of those sedges, or maybe the sedges had just now started to grow. And what the Dismiss products will do, they give you a very fast, quick burn down on a lot of your sedges and even some broadleaf weeds. So one of the things I've noticed in a very, very rainy year that we've had this year, my yards have less sedges than I have ever seen. I take care of hundreds of yards, and the sedge control has been great. Now I did another thing, I blanketed a sedge product later on, but I think the combination of those two things really did a lot to keeping my sedges at a minimum this year. All right, the first weed here, and you can see we've got a big dead spot in the yard, bare spot, not dead, bare. This weed is called, and here's a very mature example of it. This is goose grass. You can see the seed head on goose grass, and I mean, this is a tough weed. It's tough to even mow with a lawnmower. And it'll grow real flat sometimes. If you mow it, it'll just grow lower and lower. You'll see it sometimes on the golf course, on the putting green. And goosegrass is one of those weeds. I got one yard in mind right now that I went to yesterday actually, and I was there, and it's got this one slope, and I've tried different pre-emergent, and it just seems like it gets goosegrass every single year in this one spot. So it can be a tough one to get ahead of with your pre-emergent, but hopefully we're going to show you some good results with the Dismiss NXT today. Now, like a lot of weeds, it's going to be easier to control the earlier you can get it. So, I mean, this is like full strength goosegrass right here. You know, if I could have got a younger one, a smaller one, you know, one like that, probably going to have a little bit better results. But I think we're going to see some stuff happen even on the mature one. Now, the other weed we're going after today is sedges. And in particular, I want to look at some of the Kalinga, but I want to show you like yellow nut sedge, purple nut sedge, and then at least one variety of Kalinga. And then we're going to try this out, the Dismiss NXT on Kalinga, because I think, in my opinion, I don't know of anything better that's going to give you extremely fast results on that. All right, so let's try to differentiate a little bit. This is going to be yellow nut sedge. You can see it's kind of tall and thinner, grows a little bit more upright, has a sharper point on the end of it. You can compare that with purple nut sedge, a little bit wider, lays a little flatter, a little bit darker leaf on it, a little bit duller point on the end. So hopefully that helps you determine the difference in the yellow and purple nut sedge. Now the reason I say that is because your Dismiss products are going to be more effective on the yellow nut sedge than they are the purple nut sedge. Now they should give you some burn down on the purple nut sedge, but again, should get outstanding results if you're using it on yellow nut sedge. But it is helpful to be able to tell the difference between the two types. But the other weed I want to test it out on is Kalinga, and I'm not the greatest at telling the different types of Kalinga. I know green Kalinga, false green Kalinga, coxcomb Kalinga. These are some of the ones that I think are in my area kalinga, and maybe somebody can identify these, but you can see here the kalinga just kind of grows in these bunches. And sedges in general like wet areas in the lawn. So if you got an air conditioner draining out in your yard that stays wet, or just a low area that doesn't drain well, you're likely to have a problem with sedges. So I've got a good patch here of this particular type of kalinga or sedge that we're going to be dealing with, and I would expect outstanding results with the Dismiss NXT on this particular weed. And when I say outstanding results, I'm expecting very fast results as well as excellent control. So let me get the product mixed up. I'm gonna spray the weed, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna check. Let me just say this in case somebody's wondering. I'm just gonna go ahead and get ahead of this in case I'm thinking about actually getting a haircut today. So when I come back and say that, hey, this was 48 hours later, whatever time frame I decide to do, and my hair's cut, just I want you to understand that there are certain days where a person wakes up in the morning with longer hair and goes to bed that night with shorter hair, and that doesn't mean that I gave the product 2 weeks to work. This product is very, very fast. So I'm just going and say that on the front end. With the Dismiss products, typically in the summertime, you want to be very careful when the weather gets hot, because you can cause some temporary discoloration. On a Bermuda grass lawn, I'm not as worried about that. It's typically not as sensitive, but just something to keep in mind when you're applying these products. Another thing I want to remind you of is please wear your PPE when you're making the application. I've got a long sleeve shirt, I've got pants, rubber boots, rubber gloves. Make sure you're wearing your PPE. All right, so the way this one's measured out, you see it comes with this little measuring tube that actually goes down inside the bottle. And then you've got these different lines here. So the 0.23 is gonna be our lower rate per 1,000 square feet. So I'm typically gonna mix this up in something like a 2-gallon handheld sprayer like this, or a backpack, and gonna equate that with 1 gallon of water per 1,000 square feet. And I'm gonna spray it lightly. So you can go, according to the label, it's 0.35 is the high rate. I'm gonna go with that 0.23 at the lower rate because we are in the summer months, and honestly I think we're going to get great results even at the lower rate. So it's 0.23 is what I'm using per gallon of water mixed up in a 2-gallon handheld sprayer. All right, so I've got the weed spray. Let's give it a little bit of time. I'm thinking today is a Saturday. I'm thinking come back check on a Monday. So let's give it about 48 hours. I think within 48 hours, we're definitely gonna see something happen. I'm curious for a couple things. I wanna see, is there any discoloration of the turf? I wanna see how fast does it actually work? Is by Monday, are the weeds showing some serious discoloration? And how long do we need to give it before we think, hey, that's good? And I wanna see how well it does on the goosegrass, because I don't know that we'll get a total kill on those very mature ones, which is understandable. I'm just looking for the best product for that particular weed, and I don't personally know of anything better. You can get suppression with products like Celsius and things like that, but I think the Dismiss NXT is probably going to be the best product, at least that I know of, for goosegrass. So let me spray it. I actually marked a few other weeds in the yard because I want to see how it does and maybe some of the limitations. So I sprayed yellow nut sedge, purple nut sedge, chamber bitter, and also Virginia buttonweed included. So we got a lot of things out there that we sprayed, and we're gonna come back and check on the results. Well, I think as you're gonna see, one thing that you're gonna get with Dismiss NXT is extremely fast results, or at least as the weather warms up. It's been not even 48 hours. It is 2 days later, but not quite to the 48-hour mark. I wanna check on the weeds that we sprayed and just show you with your own eyes what they look like. There's some of the goosegrass that was not sprayed over here. You see what this looks like. Now, that may have been mowed with a lawnmower. And then we did not mow this section, but this was the goosegrass that has been sprayed. And of course, again, the bare spot was here. That's why I had so much goosegrass probably. But look what it did to it and how brown it is. And one thing I'm encouraged about is the Bermuda is still green there. So I think we were able to make the application without much damage to the Bermuda at all, which was encouraging. But that's what the goosegrass looks like. I mean, not even 48 hours later. Now, here's the gigantic ones that we sprayed. And again, more examples over here. Now, whether they're completely dead or not, or will die, I don't think they're dead. Are they gonna die? I don't know. And many of them I think probably won't die. But as far as like results, and again, maybe this is a good example of a smaller one there. And that one may actually die. I don't know if the big ones are die or not, but you know, I just don't know of anything else you're gonna get that kind of results with. And maybe with a second application would finish it off. But I think you can see there from that application that you're gonna get outstanding results on goosegrass and very, very quick results as well. Let's check out some of the other weeds that we sprayed. All right, remember we had two different types of Kalinga, or at least that's what I'm calling it. And this one, again, I'm hoping over the next few days it'll look even worse than this, but again, not much damage to Bermuda, if any at all. And we're getting some quick burn down there on the Kalinga. And this other variety, let me compare one that's not been sprayed here. See there versus what has been sprayed. So not quite as impressive on that. But again, we're not even 48 hours in, so we'll see. Probably want to check back one more time to see how these things are going. All right, what about chamber bitter? This is what the untreated chamber bitter looks like. You see the one kind of looks like a baby mimosa tree there. And here was our sample that we sprayed. You can see, get it close as I can there. So pretty amazing results, super fast on the chamber bitter. And then Virginia buttonweed, you can see there's an untreated Virginia buttonweed versus Virginia buttonweed that has been treated. And then the last two we want to look at is both the yellow and the purple nutsedge. All right, here's our initial check-in on the yellow nutsedge there. You see we're getting some discoloration, some burn down on that, as well as on the purple nutsedge. You can see what it's done to that in such a quick amount of time. All right, what I would like to do is come back and check in on it one more time. Let's give it, I don't know, 2 or 3 more days to work, and I'll just see how it's progressing, and then we'll come back and give one final checkup on these weeds. So we're 1 week after application. We're going to check on the results, and I've been impressed with Dismiss NXT and how fast it works for one. And also encourage, I want to show you what we are concerned about slightly with warmer temperatures and the discoloration you get on your lawn. I was encouraged with the results we got with that. I want to also mention that, Dismiss NXT is just part of the solution for your lawn care. It's just one more tool in your tool belt, if you will. It's a product that you can use on a lot of different weeds to get good results. It's not a total solution. Obviously, there's other products that we're going to use on the lawn, and you want to combine that with good nutrition, putting out fertilizer, watering the lawn, proper mowing techniques, not waiting 3 weeks and then scalping it down the dirt. All those things are going to help you. This is showing you on camera a particular product and seeing the results with your own eyes, and showing you what you can expect when you use this product on your lawn. So first up, we're going to start with the goose grass, and I want to show you the untreated goose grass. You can see the seed head here, and you can see the area we were spraying was a bare area in the lawn. It's probably a big part of why we had the goose grass to start with. Now, I sprayed the goose grass a little bit heavy because I knew it's a tough weed to kill, but look at the results we got. Again, 1 week into it. And one thing I want you to notice is you can compare that one with some of the larger specimens over here. Didn't get quite as much suppression. Now, I haven't mowed this since it happened, so it'll be interesting to see if it mowed it, how long it would take to grow back. Would it, if it wasn't such a bare spot, would it sort of hide it in the lawn? But I'm actually okay with this because I think it sort of proves a point to me that the younger, smaller weeds are actually easier to control than the larger, more mature weeds. That didn't mean we didn't get results on the larger weeds. It's just showing you that, like a lot of weeds, including crabgrass, if you can go after that weed early in the life cycle with the post-emerge, obviously you can get it with a pre-emerge, that'd be even better. Probably gonna have better results than when it's at full strength. And even later in life cycle can also give you better results, but at that point sometimes you're not as concerned about it because maybe the winter is gonna knock it out. So pre-emerge obviously is the way we wanna go, but sometimes they slip past our pre-emerge, we go after a post-emerge. If you can get to that weed early, you're probably gonna have your best results. Now, one of the things I did notice also, as you can see the example here of this goosegrass been sprayed, but there's a lot of green Bermuda in there. I say a lot, this wasn't exactly the best part of the yard, but maybe just a slightest bit of discoloration. But overall, I think the Bermuda grass handled this application very well. Now, Bermuda grass is tough and other grasses may be sensitive, so you may even want to test it on a small area. And remember, when you're spraying these different products, read the label, of course, and look at the temperature restrictions. And I was just reminded this recently that temperature restriction is when the product was actually applied. So let's say it's going to go up to 90 degrees today, but you went out and sprayed it when it was 74 degrees in the morning, then I think you oftentimes going to have less discoloration to the turf in that situation. All All right, let's move on to some of our sedges and two different varieties here, and I believe they're a type of Kalinga. And you can see the ones here that have been sprayed. You can see obviously the discoloration. Compare that with the one that hasn't been sprayed. If anybody can help me identify this one, that would be great. I should sharpen up my skills on my sedge identification. But again, one thing I'm looking at is the green Bermuda grass coming up through here, so that's a good sign, and the discoloration. If the grass was mowed, I mowed the grass, but I didn't mow this area because I wanted to show the weeds. But I would be curious to see how long does the weeds stay suppressed after application. And then the other sedge that we sprayed here, other variety of Kalinga, I believe it is, you can see what it looks like. Even more impressive results, I would say. Again, green Bermuda grass around it, which is great. And I tried to leave at least one sample that was not sprayed. So there's the untreated versus the treated there. So pretty impressive results after 1 week. Next up, we're going to show you the untreated Virginia buttonweed. Very, very difficult weed to control in the lawn. And you can see what was sprayed with the Dismiss NXT. Now, one thing you see here, another sedge got in the way, and you can see what we did to it. Plenty of green Bermuda grass here, and some very good suppression we got on the Virginia buttonweed. Now, I don't think this weed is going to die, but I think that's pretty good results for a very difficult weed. Now here's one where we did get outstanding results, and the weed, I had to actually look a little close to find what we were spraying here. And it was actually the chamber bitter, which kind of looks like a baby mimosa tree. You can see there's untreated. And as you get in here, if I didn't know what it was, I wouldn't be able to identify it, honestly. I mean, it's basically just gone. There's just some crunchy brown stuff left in here. You can see some sedges that got some suppression. So outstanding results we got on the chamber bitter. Again, green Bermuda grass coming up through here and completely demolished the chamber bitter in this lawn. And lastly, we're going to check out both the yellow and the purple nut sedge. Now, typically, in my experience, yellow nut sedge and Kalinga is typically better. You get better results with those on your Dismiss products, the sulfentrazone. But you also should get some suppression on the purple. Now, this is the yellow. You can see the amount of burn down we got here, and really, some of them more extreme than others, but how well it's showing up on camera here. But a lot of suppression that I think is going to keep that sedge down for a long time. And honestly, me spraying in the summer, I'm not sure this one's going to be a problem for the rest of the year. You can compare that with the purple here. Here's an untreated purple, nice and green. And again, we got some burn down, probably not quite as good on the purple as is the yellow or on the different varieties of Kalinga that we were looking at. But still, I mean, it's definitely got some results. And I do think once the grass is mowed, it's going to suppress this for quite some time. All right, Dismiss NXT, what do we do right? I think we sprayed it not in the heat of the day when it was hot weather in the summer, but it didn't go out there in the middle of the day and spray it, so I think that was good. We showed some of the versatility of the product with some of the different types of weed that we went after, and even though we didn't test it, it'll actually give you some good suppression on some grassy weeds as well. And again, it's just one tool in your tool belt as far as having a nice looking lawn. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Got to see your results. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you used this product before? What particular weeds do you use this on? Is this kind of a specialty product that can be used in certain situations? Would love to know if you keep it on in a sprayer, and what particular weeds are you going after, even what kind of grass you have. Again, we were mostly working in a Bermuda lawn in this particular video. Thanks to Enview for sponsoring the video. If you were wondering, I thought Dismiss NXT was an FMC product. Actually, in 2024, Enview acquired some of FMC's portfolio, so some of those products that you were familiar with under the FMC label are now under Enview. One of the great things with that is you're taking advantage of the early order program. Some of these products that were formerly under the FMC label now is part of the Enview early order program. Thanks for watching the video. I've got tons of videos out there on how to control weeds. I hope this one was helpful for you. We'll see you guys in the next one.